Hey guys, GhazzyTV here with another Path of Exile video. Today we have just gone through the patch notes for 3.12, which honestly felt very underwhelming. I have decided not to upload an entire clip of all my takes on the entire patch note and reading through it, and instead I'm now making a bit of a highlight where I'll be going through the important things I feel I should be bringing out to the community from my own personal perspective and point of views and opinions. Obviously, if you guys feel like I missed something that you think is very important or that needs some more attention, or if you want to hear my opinions on something, do let me know in the comments below. Right, so let's just dive into it. Before I go through it, actually, I do want to mention one thing. I am well aware that a lot of people see me as the summoner guy, which I think is perfectly fine. It's fun and all. I just want to underline the fact that I barely play summoners over the last few years. I've played three summoner builds in the last 4 leagues. Maybe 3 actually. 3 summoner builds in the last 3 leagues, if I recall correctly. But yeah. But I will be spending some time and talking about the Spectres, because a lot of people have been on me about that since I made quite a few videos in the last league as we pushed my Spectre builds to a pretty extreme extent with my low budget build and brought it up to some insane levels. So without further ado, I'm just going to check my my notes. And the first one was marks. Literally marks. So basically the curse reworks, which I do want to mention a bit. I feel like the curses, I love the rework of curses and hexes, or hexes and marks. The whole idea of this feels really straightforward because the fact that marks are no longer affected by enemies or bosses' curse effectiveness reductions is insane. And a lot of people are complaining about quite a few nerfs when it comes to things like specifically redemptions increase, but you also have to think about the fact that we're using projectile weakness to increase your damage output, which is now meant to be applied to a boss with full efficiency, where we no longer get 66% reduced effectiveness on it. That's an insanely big damage difference in terms of damage output that your minions will be doing with this mark applied to the enemies, in this case a boss. However, there's other things when it comes to the marks. I'm not a big fan of the Doom approach or the Doom mechanic where it builds up. I don't think that's a really effective way to do it. I don't like builds that are abilities that are building up to become efficient, as there's a gap there. It's an ARPG, people want to go fast, they just want to kill things and move on, which does bring me to the point of generating charges. And when it comes to marks, I want to spend some time and talk about Assassin Mark mainly. Basically what they've done is that curse and hit now don't have a level of the curse. Instead they're applied with the curse itself with the specific efficiency of that, or specific doom set of that that curse, and also that you can only apply a mark on one target, which is really important when it comes to the charge generation. However, it has said that if you do kill someone with an assassin's mark, there is a 100% chance that you will gain a power charge. Same thing with the Warlord's Mark in Endurance, a Porter's Mark for Frenzy Charge. You are guaranteed a charge if you kill that curse or marked enemy. The problem with this is that curse and hit rings do not apply the curse on anything but rare or unique enemies. So what Assassin Mark is mostly used for in the current state of the game is that you apply a ring so that you have a free way to generate charges when you're clearing maps. You kill a pack, you've cursed all of them with Assassin's Mark, for example, and when they're dead, you get your power charges and you roll on that. Now, that mark would only apply on rare or unique enemies, and also giving you with quality like 5% chance to get the charge on hit or something, which means that we're now forced into a position where we actually have to generate these charges through external sources, which I think is a massive nerf to a lot of builds in terms of call it comfortability or quality of life. I'm not sure what you want to sum it up to, but I think that's a big hit on curses in general. But I will definitely be personally looking into the whole casting of curses, or a curse damage build with the whole Doom mechanic. I'll probably look into it, but I'm not too hyped about it. I'm more interested in like placing salvo, grappling lance, maybe even do my Dark Pact build, things like really. But I think the big thing with marks is that they're not affected by curse efficiency reductions from boss. Something you have to think about when it comes to other nerfs they're doing in the next up is actually Firestorm that I wanted to talk about a little bit. Basically, Firestorm does a shitload of damage. You have a 207 up to 311 fire damage with a 150% more damage on the initial hit, and then you have an impact of 5 waves per second, and that can be up to 3 storms active at the same time. Though any other storm that you generate after 3 will replace the oldest one, and I honestly don't think that Firestorm will be very good in terms of mines or totems or traps. I think it's going to be terrible for that. It does look like it's going to be fine for self-casting, but my problem with self-casting abilities, especially self-casting abilities that is not globally covered, well, screen-wise coverage, or self-casting abilities that are not cold or lightning damage, which both can be made very easily into a situation where they shotgun freeze and freeze and shatter enemies for the sake of that defensive aspect of it. Fire abilities don't bring that to the table, which means that you'll need some defensive mechanisms or layers on your build to make sure that you don't get fucked over. And I think Firestorm looks better than it is. It actually looks absolutely amazing, but I'm very, very disappointed in what you're able to do with it because it feels very limited in the way they've designed it. So that's my take on Firestorm. However, Glacier Cascade. Fuck me. Now, the way Glacier Cascade was reworked, for those of you who don't know it or haven't paid attention when you're actually playing the game, Act 10 Kitala, the heart faces, in one of the heart faces, I do believe all of them, but in the heart faces there is one of the mini bosses, if you will. They use a cascade that is doing exactly what Glacier Cascade is doing. That cascade does some damage, but at the end of its travel, it will then explode and deal a fuckload of damage. That explosion has killed numerous amount of hardcore players throughout the years, since Exile was introduced to the game. Now, Glacier Cascade will be doing that, but they also change it so you don't have to get conversion rates, and the new lab enchant gives Fizz's extra cold damage, and the final spike dealing 200% more damage is pretty insane. But the increased amount of area of effect now makes these waves overlap on single target, and as well as knocking enemies back. This puts us in a situation where scaling a wave means you're hitting more enemies, but each wave will also hit the same enemy several times, whereas in the past we wanted to have a conk effect to minimize the distance and the size of it so that it would hit the enemy several times, right? Now it's basically the complete opposite approach, which means that Glacier Cascade is going to be absolutely disgusting as a miner. It's already been, in the past, one of the best boss kill abilities for miners in the game, and I do believe personally that that will return. Especially with what they did to Ball Lightning that I'll be talking about later. So I think Glacier Cascade can, in both cast and crit setups, totem setups, and even mine setups, can be absolutely disgusting. And it will definitely be something I'll be playing around with in 3.12. So I think Glacier Cascade looks sexy as fuck, and I'm not gonna lie, I mean, Jesus. Take me out for dinner, please. Discharge. Speaking of looking sexy. Okay, first off, these damage numbers are disgusting. However, we do know that this threshold jewel that removes the new added cooldown on Discharge drastically does limit or reduce damage outputs. However, I think Discharge with the new looks of it is super, super good looking. The question I have though with Discharge is how we're going to efficiently use it, and I feel like Cast and Crate will be one of the more efficient ways of playing it. But yeah, I think Discharge will be a very popular build in 3.12, and I think it's going to be very fun to see what people come up with, but a Cast and Crate approach to it most likely is the best one, despite the Assassin's nerf, for example, which are pretty big. On the other hand, we have things like Vitality that I also wanted to mention. The fact that we're now able to use it at level 10, and that it's changed to very high flat life region with flat mana reservation similar to like Precision and Clarity, Vitality is actually really good. 247 HP at level 20. I mean, I do believe someone in chat mentioned that if you have a 6000 HP build, just the baseline level 20 Vitality gem, that's about 4% life region. That's big. How much did we get in the past? Like 1.5% level 20, reserving like 200,000% of your mana? The new Vitality is insane. I think it's going to be very fun to see how many builds can actually just squeeze it in for value. Another thing to mention with Vitality is the fact that it allows us to use a level 1 Vitality to just soak up one socket on your gear, and that suddenly opens up the possibilities of using Watcher's Eye Jewels for the sake of effective by Vitality. And there's some pretty cool ones. We'll be going to mention the Watcher's Eye a little bit later in this video. Ball Lightning. Okay. So, for those of you who think that the nerfs to Ball Lightning wasn't that big, you are absolutely correct on one end of the spectrum, and on the other side, when you bring in the entire change to it, you're absolutely incorrect, and you should just not say anything else. The damage nerf to Ball Lightning looks significant, right? It looks pretty big. I have a wasp in my room. Apparently been here for the past 13 hours. Back on that. I don't like wasps. Okay, so the damage itself it's pretty big, but it's not very noticeable, to be honest. It's not a big thing. It really isn't. However, the radius is the big one. So there's two different aspects of how you make a ball lightning do the most damage. One is hitting the sweet spot, if I recall correctly, is a radius of 32. So you want to have a radius of 32, right? This is achievable in the current state of the game by, I think it's around 100% increase of area of effect. It brings you up to 32 radius. Once you have 32 radius, you actually don't do more damage by having bigger AoE. So the only thing you can do after that is literally to slow the projectile down in terms of speed. Now, if you have lower radius, it doesn't matter how slow you make the projectile, because having higher radius would then be better for you. There's basically two elements that needs to be balanced for it to be as efficient as possible, where the cap is at 32 in radius in terms of area coverage, and the other one is just slow yourself down as much as you can after that. So when the base radius is nerfed from 18 to 22, which they said in the in the manifesto, I believe they mentioned that they've had ball lightning slightly. They used the word slightly. This is a baseline radius drastically removed down from 22 to 18. The amount of increased area of effect that you will now need is 180%. That is 80% more than we needed before. To give you an idea of how much AoE you would need on a tree, do you believe this one actually covered it? Because it's lets me know. Actually, it's. I'll have to double check it. Sorry, it's my bad. I misspoke. The square root of the area, square root of area of effect modifier has to be 1.8. There we go. Which is a little bit more than what I mentioned. 190, 200% or something is fucking crazy. So in this tree, looking at area, we've been forced to pick up Amplify, forced to pick up Enigmatic Reach, forcing us to use Tremor Rod, which you probably would anyways, Blast Radius, including the extra node, as well as Arcane Expanse, as well as Blast Waves, as well as High Explosives, I do believe it is. No, not that one, but it's Explosive Experts. This tree here, with all of these AoE nodes on this side, over here, the Blast Radius, the Arcane Expanse, including Blast Waves, still is not enough to bring you to 32. It's not even enough. It's insane. Give you the calculation right there. So if you have 1.7 times 18, that gives you 30.6. You need to get 32. You have to get 32 radius. So if you have 18 times 1.8, that's enough. 18 times 1.75, not enough because it rounds down. I mean, the square root of the area of effect modifier needs to be. Oh God, it's insane. It's so disgusting. I don't even know what to say. So yeah, the nerf to ball lightning is massive. However, this can be mitigated and sorted, or solution rather, could be found via cluster jewels to get AoE coverage. But then again, then you're actually forced to use a cluster jewel to make up for this nerf. That's a big nerf. Massive. Next one will be Enduring Cry. I think that the Enduring Cry nerf is kind of overkill. I'm personally not a big fan of it. I feel like it's kind of limiting the utility usage Enduring Cry brought to the table. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I just don't like this change. I kind of see why they did it though. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan. I'm going to take my headset off because I need to keep track of this fucking wasp. Fuck did it go? It's like 35 degrees in this room right now. How did it get in? I don't even know. Anyways, so the next one we're going to talk about is Glancing Blows. Glancing Blows. So a lot of people have been talking about Glancing Blows, saying that it's so bad. I disagree a lot. You take 15% more damage per hit, right? It's Glancing Blows, you never really took it because it blocks 50% of your damage. Because if you don't take Glancing Blows, you take 0% when you of damage when you block. The reason you take Glancing Blow is because it fucking doubles your block chance of spells and attacks, making it very, very easy to get to the block cap. The actual damage that you take had nothing to do with it. You took Glancing Blows because you barely had you barely had to invest anything into actually blocking. That's why you take it. The fact that they increased it, they could have just had Glancing Blows do you take 100%, well not 100%, but you know they could have had it up even higher and I would still take it because you get oh fuck. See this wasp. I'm making a video here. Okay. Jesus. Okay. Anyways, where was I? And then it is acquired by. It's harder to reach with Thread of Hope. I mean, harder. Where did it go? Okay, I see it. Oh my god. Anyways, difficult to acquire via Thread of Hope, and the thing is, I don't think that's a big problem. The question would then be: is it impossible to reach with Thread of Hope, or is it harder to reach? Does that mean that they moved it so that you have to put the threshold jewel, or the jewel itself, the jewel socket, would have to be in a different location? I'm not really sure what they mean with more difficult to acquire via Thread of Hope. It doesn't say that it's not possible, though. So we're going to move on. I'm sorry for the panic here during this video. My mother is allergic to it. I'm not sure if I am. I've never actually tested me, so I don't want to find out. Wasp, that is. Whispers of Doom is the next one. Whispers of Doom. So, fuck this wasp, dude. Whispers of Doom clusters have moved next to Chaos Inoculation, and the first passive in the cluster now grants 10% cast speed of curses from 15% curse duration. Small passive on the left path now grants 50% increased Doom gain rate from 15% increased cast speed of. Now, the idea that I wanted to mention here, though, what I wanted to talk about when it comes to Whispers of Doom, is that we're in a position where it's going to move to where Chaos Inoculation is. That decision in itself is making it more accessible for shadows, but also for rangers, which makes it possible for a lot of people to actually go for multiple curse approaches, even as a ranger ascendancy now as well, which I think is going to be really cool to see what people do with it. God damn, dude, I need to do something to spot this wasp. Anyways, Assassin. Assassin is now offering. No, wait, where am I? Ascendancy changes. Ascendancy challenge. I don't even know where it is now. Deadly Fusion notable. Grants 1.5% increased pure strike chance and maximum power charges from 2% and 5% crit multi down per power charge from 8%. I think these changes are absolutely fucking massive. I think it's really, really big. And the same thing with a small passive that grants creature strike chance and multi from 10, multi down from 15. These are absolutely massive, massive nerfs. It'll be interesting to see how many people will still play Assassin with these changes. But like, I think these nerfs are fucking big, but well deserved then again, because we're in a situation where the majority of the player base, they play Necromancers or they played Assassins. 44% of the softcore players, according to Pee Wee Ninja, with their statistics, played Assassins or Necromancers. 44%. fact that we got nerfs on Necromancers Assassins were bound to happen. I think that's very fair. Okay, I've lost track of where that was went. Fuck. Next up, Necromancers. So, speaking of nerfing Ascendancies based off the majority of the player is playing them, Mistress of Sacrifice now causes your off-range to have 50% reduced effect on you. This is not a problem. There is no problems whatsoever with this. Okay, I found it. 50% is not really a problem at all. And what it means is like when it comes to like flesh offering, we're in a situation where we don't really care about the attack or cast speed, but it does impact the fact that where we go for bone offering, right? But 50% instead of 75, that's equivalent of 8% block. This big nerf is 8% block, which is nothing. Nothing whatsoever. I don't think that's a problem. So if anyone's bitching about it, I'm strongly considering killing the wasp right now. It's staring at me. I swear to God. Next up is Cluster Jewels. Okay. Cluster Jewels. Eye of the Storm. No, but we will talk about Precise Commander, which now causes you and every ally to 25% increase critical strike chance, down from 30. Not so much to mention, but the crit multi from 10 to 12. Precise Commander is barely noticeable. A lot of people were like, oh, but they nerfed everything that's needed for their Sentries and Spectres. They're going to be nerfing them big time. But the nerf to Precise Commander is barely noticeable. However, the nerfs to Vengeful Commander that grants 20% increase effect of anger, hatred, and wrath instead of 30. Now this is very noticeable. A lot of people are saying that, oh, you just scale the crit, you just scale the crit. Honestly, the crit is nice, but we don't super scale it. Frenzy charges are worth way more than the power charges. The crit multi is nice to have, but we're still limited in terms of crit. I mean, hell, my super high budget Spectre build had about actually 100% crit chance. Every hit they did crit, but we're still limited in crit multi, so other sources were better. Like, actually better. I reached a point where it would be better for me to have like 90% crit and actually have use of those non-crit hits where my non-crits would actually benefit from the double damage approach. That gave me a higher DPS output, surprisingly. But the Vengeful Commander will definitely be noticeable. Same thing goes with Vicious Bite, where it's 15% crit multi from 20, a third of critical strike chance. Primordial Bond might be worth looking into at this point. And then, I mean, the difference between Vicious Bite and Primordial Bond wasn't too big, and now it might be even closer to one another. It's like I mentioned before, in a low-budget build with no Cluster Jewels, Redemption Sentries did about 10 million Shaper DPS, and that's with curse effect reduction, with curses on bosses. Whereas a high-budget build with a reasonable budget, not Harvest and Deterministic Crafting high-budget, but a reasonable high-budget build, reach about 40 to 50 million. Take away half of that, and you get 20-25 million Shaper DPS on a high-budget build. You're still shitting on bosses in a couple of seconds. That's fine. No Cluster Jewels, 10 million. Fine. Nerf it down with the Spectre change. We're going to talk about that in a bit as well. Anyways, fuck this wasp. And we're going to talk about Watcher's Eyes. Okay. Wait. What happened now? Where did the patch notes go? God damn it. Yeah, I lost track of it. I don't know where the fucking shit is. Watcher's Eye. There we go. Watcher's Eye. Can I grant 10% energy shield recovery rate for discipline? I'm not gonna go into all the numerical values. They basically nerfed every single fucking node or mod that you can get from the Watcher's Eyes, which I think is fucking amazing because I felt that the strength of Watcher's Eyes have just been, okay, I found it, have been way too strong for way too long without having any attention to it. And I think it's very fair to say that they're getting proper nerfs now. And when I say proper, they're getting really fucking nerfed. However, something that's very interesting to point out is the changes to Vitality now opens up the possibility for us to actually utilize Watcher's Eyes with builds for Vitality. And I think that's going to be really cool. There was, for example, the modifier that said Vitality. When you're affected by Vitality, you get damage leached as HP, which should work for spells as well. So I think that's going to be really, really cool as well. So I'm actually very, very happy about these changes personally. I know some people might not enjoy it, but I think it's amazing. God damn, this wasp. Holy shit, this video, man. I'm so sorry. Moving on. Spectres. We're almost done. And I can deal with this fucking wasp. Spectres. So, first off, I'm going to talk about the HP real quick. Spectre's HP change has basically been in a position where they have a baseline HP of 31,000 HP. Slave drivers, however, they have a baseline HP of about 8,000, and this is all equivalent to about level 84, 85 Spectres. Now, in a build like my high body one, which is investing 0 nodes into the survivability or defensive nodes for my Spectres, they have 100,000 life. Slave drivers with the exact same build has 25,000 life. The nerf to neither slave drivers or the redemption sentries with that build would ever die unless you're doing reflect or Siri if you're doing too much damage, but that's another story. So that 25,000 HP is way more than you'll ever need for Spectres to actually survive if you're doing the build properly. Such as the builds that I have, for example, they don't die if you do it properly. They should never die. 33% less HP still puts them at a baseline HP at a way above 20,000 HP, which means that redemption sentries should never have a problem surviving because slave drivers that are vastly squishier still doesn't die. The damage, however, I know a lot of people might give me shit for this, but my personal opinion is that I don't think that the nerf is enough. I think it's good that they're doing this. I wish they nerfed them more, and the reason I say this is because I would really want GGT to force us to use other Spectres. Why? Because having the availability to hundreds upon hundreds of minions to raise the Spectres for the sake of damage, to only say, meh, why bother? We can just do redemption sentries, is getting fucking bored. I mean, I played a Spectre build a couple leagues here and there now in the last couple of years, and it is boring. We have other amazing Spectres, like Syntil Synthes, Slave Drivers, Gale of Ash. There's quite a few different options. In terms of utility, there's a lot of options, but for offense, there's a lot of options. And all of those options are vastly inferior to redemption sentries. The 33% reduction to damage puts us in a position where they will be slightly noticeably lower damage output than slave drivers for single targets, but they still have vastly superior clear. They have the freeze, chill, and shatter. They're just overall better, even at 33% damage. The build guides that I have will still be promoting the redemption sentries because I think that they are still the superior choice. Because I think that the only way I would arguably promote another Spectre would be if I'm either proven wrong or if they would have nerfed them harder so that I would be forced to do the calculation and then see that, okay, now slave drivers are better, but slave drivers have the worst clearing. That's my take on the race Spectres. And I'm also referring to like my build guide with no cluster jewels. The low budget approach to it does about 10 million shaper DPS, so 33% less damage. Let's say they're doing 7 million shaper DPS. But 7 million shaper DPS, that's still a shitload of damage. And this is where the curse effect reduction is on bosses taken into consideration, which is now removed, which means when we're marking an enemy with projectile weakness, or we're in a situation where we're actually going to do significantly more damage. So the nerf is not that big when it comes to the low budget end. It's barely noticeable on the very low budget. It is, however, more noticeable on the higher budget, whereas in the past we could reach 40, 50 million shaper DPS, whereas all the crit multis and all the other changes taken into consideration will give us a much lower high-end DPS on a high budget build. But, I mean, when you're going above 20 million shaper DPS, you're still kind of shitting on bosses. It's no reason to go above a certain number of DPS because you'll barely notice it, if at all. And last but not least, I do want to talk about Fortune Favors the Brave. The Sana League mods is crazy good. We have Delirium, we have Blight, we have Beyond, Nemesis, Bloodlines, Domination, a bit Abyss. Fortune Favors the Brave costs 3 chaos and gives you a random option, including those that you have not yet unlocked. This means that whenever you run a map that you're juiced up, you should use Fortune Favors the Brave, in my opinion. Hitting a Delirium is hitting the jackpot. That's a 16 chaos cost for 3 chaos. If you hit Blight, I'm not a big fan of Blight, but it's still worth the currency. hit a Beyond on a juiced map for 3 chaos. Fuck it, that's perfect. Nemesis, 4 chaos on a juiced map, that's worth it. Bloodlines on a juiced map, that's worth it. I'm not too happy about the Domination. That's the only like really bad one, together with Abyss. So those two would be the only 2 ones that would be, you know, being a bad result, but they would still be good. But 2 out of 7 for 3 chaos, just pop it whenever you juice a map. I think it's definitely worth it. All right, I'm gonna deal with this wasp. I'm really sorry about this video, the way it turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you think I missed anything, let me know in the comments below. If I survived this fight with this piece of shit, hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Until next time, boys, stay safe and keep rocking.